Welcome back, everyone, to another incredible episode of Chat with Dan here. For today, we have on the show, I mean, what can I say? The incredible, the amazing, the badass, the superstar, the legendary Megan. Megan, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, what better way to start up a badass weekend than to be chatting with someone as badass as you? You know what I mean?
That is a high compliment. Thank you. I'll take it.
There you go. I love it. And also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow. Helps a lot. But also, description below, you're going to find all of Megan's social media. Let's follow her. And let's discover why she's super badass. Now, without further more, let's jump in here. So I want to start this whole epic conversation by throwing out the first question, which is, what initially drew you to the world of voiceover work? Was there like a particular moment or experience that made you realize, you know what, this is it?
Yeah. So I've been an actor for a while. I went to school for theater. I have a degree. I have a pretty hefty body of work in the Bay Area theatrically. And then I was also working on camera and stuff. And then I just kind of slowly came to the realization that I hate working on sets. I hate people touching my hair. I hate people touching my face. I feel like I'm always cast as somebody who can't get wrinkly. So I'm standing around all day and I feel like I can't relax. Like my clothes can't get wrinkly, I feel. And then I ended up doing an on-camera job that had some voiceover that it needed in addition to the main on-camera work. And it was like for like a lot of tech jargon. It was some industrial internal video. And I really had a good time kind of working around what the language was trying to do. It's a lot of jargon that I didn't understand, but I was still able to work with the director and like make meaning of it. They seemed to like working with me, but I really enjoyed that. And it kind of was like a light bulb moment for me where I was like, it's just me and the guy on the other side of the glass, or gal on the other side of the glass. And uh yeah, and so that was my light bulb moment, was I don't have to work on set anymore and I can do voiceover instead.
Absolutely. And you can wear like really comfortable clothes.
Yeah, totally. I'm not called to set at like 6 a.m. and not used for 4 hours. And yeah, anyway.
There you go. I love it.
Mhm.
And tell me, how do you prepare for a new voiceover role? Do you have like any like routine or method to help you get into character?
So most of my character work is going to be based around like an audiobook process. And because in audiobooks you're voicing all of the characters, you kind of develop like a shorthand for how to stretch yourself into the different characters and be able to revisit them. So as I'm preparing a book, the characters, the main players in the characters, they start to kind of like sit with you. And then when you're done prepping the book, you sit with them and their different characteristics kind of resonate with you. And I like to create a physicality or like a physical shape for each of the characters, because that helps me. I'm a pretty active actor. I come from stage. And so then I can shift between each physicality of the character. Like, let's say like one character is like he's like a guy who's kind of soft spoken, but he smiles at the side of his mouth. And then his little sister is kind of always like unsure. And so she kind of tilts her head and squints her eyes, but I can switch back and forth between the two of them. Right. But and so like, switching back and forth that way, you build this muscle memory of being able to do that. And then if another great trick is to cast your cast of characters with people that you know or celebrities, just some like touchstones so that like you can quickly slip in from one to the other.
That is awesome. I love it. And tell me, like, how challenging that can be whenever you are kind of back and forth between characters.
Yeah, it's really hard. Can I curse on this show?
Yeah, go for it.
It's really fucking hard. The first audiobook I did, I like in theory, I understood that I would be playing all the roles, but it wasn't until I literally was on my first day of recording and was stepping into a conversation with myself. And I had done that in classes and with coaches and stuff, but like on my own, like in my own booth, like just recording the book. It was like that first dialogue where I was like, oh, I'm not only voicing all the characters, but I'm like getting inside the intention. I'm acting as all the characters. And Honestly, I feel like my work in audiobooks has strengthened my acting across the board in all other facets just because of that. It's a muscle and it gets stronger, but yeah, it's hard.
I love it. I mean, like whenever I can get the chance, like to see like behind the scenes for I don't know, movie or video game and see the actors like doing like the whole voiceover, it's epic. I love it, because
It's fun to watch, yeah.
yeah, it's super fun because you see them like actually trying to, make the gestures and everything as they were running, but they're just like standing, or things like
Right.
that, like all of those things that they put to kind of make it as real as possible is yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of energy that goes on behind the mic for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And can you share like a memorable or challenging experience you had while recording the voiceover work for any project?
Yeah, I know I just mentioned this, but that's what comes to mind is like that first like oh crap moment where I was like, oh yeah, I got this. Like I did a theater production of Hamlet where me and the rest of the cast had to learn every role, and then every night in front of the audience we would draw our character out of Yorick's skull, and that's how we played that night. And so like I come from like dynamic, juicy, sweaty theater. And then I was like, yeah, I got audiobooks. Like this is in my bones. I got this. And then I like was in the booth and just went to do it. And I was like, oh, like I have to flip back and forth in real time in the conversation. And I can't be like pausing between every line because I'll never get the book done. And so developing that muscle to really be able to be in conversation with yourself and act both sides of the scene, yeah, that's a very challenging skill. Still working on it.
Absolutely. I mean, and that is why you're badass. I love it. That is super cool. And tell me, if you can lend your voice to any fictional character, like right now, who would it be
Yeah,
and why?
yeah, that's such a good question. Such a fun question. I'm sort of a recent convert to fantasy. I didn't really discover adult or young adult fantasy books until like during like post pandemic. But I think my favorite series is the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. And Jude Duarte is the female protagonist of that series. And no shade to Caitlin Kelly, who narrates the series. She's fabulous. But if I could have it in my fantasy to voice any fictional character, um, yeah, Jude is just like, oh, she's talk about badass. Like her essence, I feel like just sits in a kernel, like right over my heart. She's like right there for me.
That is incredible. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's cool. That is, I mean, who knows? Maybe at some point you will get the
Yeah, you
chance
never
to
know.
do that. You never know, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. And tell me, like, how do you maintain vocal health and versatility? And like, is there like any tips or exercise that you kind of apply to make sure that your voice stays healthy, let's say?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is staying hydrated, and that starts even the day before. But yeah, just drinking lots and lots of water throughout the day before bed, before you record. That's going to help with any long form type of narration, whether it's audiobooks or corporate narration or what have you. But I'm a really physical person and I try to exercise every day and I exercise first thing in the morning so that I like shake the phlegm off my cords and wake up my whole instrument. I get sweaty and then I shower and like the hot water in the shower and the steam kind of helps to lubricate your vocal system. And then if it's Monday, I have some like mouth warm-ups that I'll do to kind of like articulators and just different things to be a little more precise in the mouth. Yep.
Hmm, that's cool. And it's incredible like the fact that like sometimes we don't even pay attention to the fact that our voice it's a muscle and we actually need to like every now and then, make sure that at least it's okay. The other day I saw this interview with a singer that during the recording of of an album that she released, the album got postponed because during like the whole sessions she basically kind of broke her voice, let's say. So she got a
Mm.
surgery to it, and it was like months and months and months of
Oh God.
recovery until she
Yeah.
was able like to sing back. And I once interviewed um a voice coach, and she was telling me also that that there's like multiple exercises and things like that in order to prevent you to kind of overuse it, you know? So,
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Uh if you're narrating a book and then you have like a side character who's got like a raspy kind of voice, but it's okay because that character is only in the book a little, you never know when that author might write another book that now centers around that character. And all of a sudden you have to narrate a whole book with that sort of raspy tone. And like, yeah, so it is a lot of mitigation and making sure and trial and error, to be honest. Like I've narrated books and by the end of it, I'm like, I can't do a character like that again. Um, so I feel like you have to kind of fail forward to figure out how your system works, what
yeah.
works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like voice acting often requires like a lot of emotional depth. But tell me, like, how do you tap into different emotions between here and there when voicing characters?
Yeah. That's such a good question. I feel like it's connected to so many other parts about the craft and like just acting in general, but specifically with voice acting, because there's no actor, you're imagining everything, right? You're playing the movie of the scene in your mind. And for me, the more specific that I can get in terms of my physical location in the scene, like where I am, who I'm with, where I'm seated in terms of what the noise level is. And like all of these little details really start to build a three-dimensional world in my mind. And so if I've built the world, normally like the emotional parts don't come right at the beginning. They'll be like at the climax and then at the end. So you've paid your dues, so to speak, in terms of creating the world for the listener, but also for yourself. And then once that's been established and you're in the scene that you've been like with a character who you've been on this journey with the whole book. And I find that just not trying to force it and not trying to um, watch myself or listen to myself. It's like you really just want to be as present as you can in the moment and let it unfold in real time. And I find that my emotional availability will kind of open up if I've set the stage with specificity and I kind of keep a light. I don't squeeze down on it. I just take my time and like let it kind of play out in my mind and be present.
Fair enough. I like it. I like that. And have you ever had a voice fail moment while recording, or perhaps like a, a hilarious bloop or yeah, like a hilarious blooper or line that just wouldn't come out right?
Um, yeah, I've definitely had like lines that come out or like I get like pickups back from the producer or the audiobook publisher and I'm like, there's no way I said that. And I go and listen and I'm like, nope, I fucking said that. All right. But like one that is consistent and it comes up a lot in the Bay Area because of all the tech industry here, but it never fails. I can't on the first try say digital within speaking copy. Like if I'm like doing like a, for this like magical digital watch, like it's like I always can't anyway,
Hmm.
digital, can't say digital.
Yeah, yeah, it happens. It happens. I mean, we all have our words that we just can't pronounce somehow. Like, no matter how
Yeah.
much we try, we just can't. So I
It's
get
like
it.
the anatomy of your mouth too. Like
Hmm.
certain words are like easier for some and not for others.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And tell me, like, what is your favorite type of voiceover work? Like commercial, animation, audiobooks, and why?
So I mean, I love being in my booth for almost any project. Um, but my like the scope of my work really fluctuates between commercial, which is short and sweet, and audiobook, which is long form and like much a whole different animal. But I love them both. Um, for commercial work, I love that I get to like make choices that really bring my personality to the copy and I make them. You have to make the choices fast because you're auditioning like, like 8, 10 auditions a day. And you make the choices fast and as specific as possible, but like also like things that like make you smile or make you laugh or things you think are cool. And so it's fun because you really get to bring yourself to it. Um, and then for audiobooks, like I come from theater, audiobooks to me are like the theater of voiceover, and they're so creatively fulfilling. I love telling people I get to read for a living, and I get to work from home as an actor, which I never thought would be a thing. And yeah, so I've done lots of different types of voiceover, but commercial work and audiobooks I think are my two favorites.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love listening to an audiobook. Like whenever I'm gonna travel,
Mm-hmm.
that's like my jam. Like specifically, if I know that the travel is gonna be like a 6 hours, 7 hour around, I would just
Yeah,
switch to an audiobook and just and it's cool because like even though that I'm listening to it, if at some point it has happened like a lot of times that I will I will sleep, you know, and in my dream I'm dreaming what I'm hearing by the book.
right.
It has happened like a lot of times in which
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm having like my own movie, and then when I wake up I'm like, okay, this was cool, but yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And like how do you approach finding like the right tone and style for a specific project? Do you prefer to work closely with directors or do you enjoy more like creative freedom, let's say?
Yeah, finding the right tone and style for a specific project. I think like once you have a good amount of experience, like the right tone and vibe kind of comes naturally. You kind of understand what they're wanting from you in the spot. Like if it's a video, the voiceover kind of takes a back seat and just supports the video. And like depending on if it's like a hospital piece, it's like going to be like a really caring, nurturing sort of warmth. So you just kind of, and also we absorb all of this information just from watching TV and listening to the radio. So, a lot of that like will kind of come out in the wash because you're more familiar than you think you are with like what tone and style people are looking for. But beyond that, ask questions. Like, ask if you could see a couple different ways of it going. Like, ask the producer, the client. Like just ask them what they want so that you can deliver. And to piggyback on that, just to like tackle the question of working with a director, we're as voice actors, we're in our booth alone like 90% of the time. And so anytime you can have a director is such a privilege. Just to not only like have someone to collaborate with, but it will push you beyond what your first instincts are, which is always what we need as artists is to like, push beyond what our comfort zone is. And then also, like it's really easy to get in your head and start questioning things and like you re-listen to the same line 8 times and then you can no longer hear it. And so it's really great to have a director just to say like, no, that was great. We're moving on. And you're like, thank you for saving me from myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, what separates a good voiceover artist from a great one?
I think being a voice artist, you're running your own business, and I think that it's probably a similar answer for lots of small business owners, but it's like going that extra mile sort of sentiment, because it's so easy to like be kind of done for the day and then be listening to your audition and editing it, and you're like, "Ugh, both of these tags and both of my takes have the same inflection. I really wish I had like remembered to do like an alternate rhythm on this one just so to show more range." And it's the end of your day and you're exhausted and like you have to go back downstairs and like hook up your computer and do all this stuff. And like, if in the future, hopefully you'll figure out a system to like figure that out before you leave the booth. But like there's just pushing yourself to like tick everything off the box so that you feel like you didn't leave anything on the table, like you've really done your best with that audition. Um, and like, or even before you get in the booth, like taking the extra time to research the company or the product or listening to some of their old spots and stuff just to really, it doesn't take that long, but sometimes it can feel like, it can feel really tedious if you're doing this several times a day in between the other jobs you have going to make your life work. It adds up. But I feel like if you can, the difference between a great and a good voice artist is that the great ones enjoy the whole process and will take the time to do the extra steps because that'll be more fulfilling than taking a shortcut.
Okay, there you go. Like, how do you stay inspired and motivated in an industry that sometimes can be competitive and unpredictable as well?
I go outside a lot. I try and get out on like a 3 or 4 hour hike at least once a week. And for me, like being in front of a computer screen for hours every day in the booth in the dark, it's going outside is just like good for my brain. And it helps me process my own timing on things. Like I try really hard not to compare myself with my peers and just to like be a cheerleader for my peers because all of our careers are moving in different um, patterns and directions and they're all moving forward, but sometimes they're moving sideways and like, but like I'm really trying to just continue to trust my timing and remind myself that there's other parts of my life that are really fulfilling to me, like being outside and getting sweaty and seeing my friends, and that like having time for those things too are probably more valuable than spending an extra 4 hours every day, doing cold emailing or whatever. Like it's important to make time for both, but yeah, I just try to enjoy the full scope of my life and not get caught up in the rat race.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all humans and we need somehow to kind of distract our minds every now and then.
Yeah,
I mean, like this idea of working 24/7 and not gonna sleep until you die until you die or things like that. You know what I mean?
right,
Like that
right.
hustle, like that intense hustle. I tried it once and it was like one of the most horrific things ever that I'm never gonna do because you stop to. I mean, at least to me, what happened is that I stopped to enjoy it. At some point, I was like, okay, this is not. I'm not enjoying what I do, so you know. So
Totally.
I
You're just the enjoyment just comes from like going from one thing to the next and being like, oh, I got another one, got another one, got
hmm
another one. But you're not enjoying the process of it. You're just like getting the little dopamine hits of feeling like you're succeeding, but like you're not living.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Like, yeah, at the end, what I ended up discovering is that it's okay if you one day are like, you know what, I'm just going for a walk with my dogs and then I will work back on this thing or I will just take the day off. Why not? You know what
hmm
I mean? Things like that. Because at the end
hmm
we're humans and we need sometimes like those moments it's when inspiration like hits you the most, like when
Totally.
you're like outside or with friends or doing something outside from your line of work. It's like sometimes it has happened to me at least that I get this idea like, wait a minute, like I could do this, incredible, or wait a minute, like I could plan this, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
it's good. It's okay to take breaks, basically.
And it resources you so that when you go back to your work, you're like more fully charged up and
Totally.
inspired to work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Let's say that one day I call you and I tell you that I wanna become a
Hmm.
voiceover artist. But here's the thing, zero experience. So based on what you know, what do you think that would be important? Yeah, like based on of everything you know and things like that, where do you think it would be a good place for me to start?
A good place to start is always in classes, not only to just sort of see what you know and see what you don't know, but to also start to build your community. Um, Voiceover is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You're going to be investing a lot of time and money, and it's going to take a few years for work to be coming in even semi-consistently for most people. But I think my favorite part about doing this work is the warmth and the real friends I've made. Like, I highly recommend taking classes and then identifying the people that you think are better than you are and becoming their friends. And then what I did with a few friends when I started in 2020, I had already started doing voiceover, but I had nothing else to do, and all the classes were remote. So I was using all my unemployment money for classes and to build my booth and all of that. And so I formed this little unit of friends, and every week we would meet over Zoom for an hour, and we would just read copy and practice with each other. And it was really fun, and it just kind of kept the muscle engaged. And even now, I have two agents, and one of those agents is also a coach, and I really adore him. He's wonderful. And with two other of my friends slash peers, we do a semi-private coaching session with him every week. And so that I think is the most valuable. Once you've had some basic class training, if you can get yourself into a semi-private lesson with some friends on a weekly basis, so you start to build off of what you're learning, you're going to get a lot of one-on-one time. And I think it's going to be it's the most bang for your buck because you're splitting the hour, which can get expensive if it's one-on-one coaching. But you're splitting the hour and you're getting so much more feedback than you would in a class setting, and classes can be expensive.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's cool. I'll tell you what, if I ever become a voiceover artist, if at some point when I write my memoirs, I'll be mentioning you in my thank you speech.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Sounds like a plan. I love it. I love it.
Awesome.
My last question, so we can all enjoy and relax after a couple of difficult, amazing, badass questions. Here it is. What do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
Oh my God. Let's see. My last name's Trout. Uh, you're gonna spring this on me at the end. God, I need some like brainstorm sessions here. Uh, Catch of the day. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure. Trout Shark. That's my nickname. Um, Fishy, getting fishy. I don't know. You can probably come up with something better.
Getting fishy. Okay. So it's something around that line. Let me see. What about mm, I don't know. This is the
I
first
know,
time.
I know.
This is
I'm
the
not a
first time
copywriter. I'm not
I'm
a copywriter.
I'm blank. Yeah, this is
Uh,
the first time. I usually have like a couple of ones kind of like already thinking about, but this is the first time in which I'm like
yeah.
totally blank. Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you what. With with what you yeah with what you told me, I might get creative and create
Okay.
and once it's good to go, I'll be and once I have a title, I'll be letting you know so you could be like, okay, so perhaps yes, or you know what, switch to this. You know, we could
Okay.
create
Okay,
something
cool.
later.
If I think of something, if I come up with any ideas when I'm walking outside, I'll just email them to you.
Sounds like a plan. I love it. And I mean, at the end, what can I say? You know, the fact that you're pursuing something that makes you happy, that you are actually making it happen. I mean, that is awesome. I mean, we all know how difficult how difficult life in general is, but also when you are doing something that is your passion, that is something that you care about, it tends to be like a little more, it tends to be like a pain in the butt sometimes, you know. But
Yeah.
but you're doing it
The
as I said,
stakes are high.
yeah, super high, but you're showing results, and I think that is incredible. But also, I think that is what people should more pay attention to. You know, whenever we will see someone who is actually pursuing their passions to it. You know, and I'm super sure that our next conversation would be about the multiple thousands audiobooks, commercials, video games. I mean, you name it, because I do think that great things happen for people who are honest by heart, and for sure you are one of those. And yeah.
Oh, thank you
There you
so
go.
much, Dan. This was such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I also want to thank those who stayed here this whole episode. Now, on the description below, as I said in the beginning, you're going to find all of Megan's social media. Now, because we discovered why she's super badass, let's make her viral. Hashtag Team Megan. And again, Megan, thank you for making this happen. Keep rocking out there. Keep shining. Keep being super badass. And I'll see you in the next one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
All right.